Good evening. This is Freddie Vasquez, Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight, the transgender debate. Good evening, it's Freddie Vasquez with Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight, the transgender debate and more. We talk about a topic that a lot of people are talking about, very sensitive. My wife is like, be careful. Good evening, folks. Good evening, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Freddie Vasquez with Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight, the transgender debate. That's what I called it. This is something a lot of people are talking about. I've had conversations about this yesterday, day before, today. It's all over. It's a hot button topic. And a lot of people, are very emotional on both sides about it. And specifically when it comes to the schools and teaching, the transgender education in schools. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit today and go over a few things after that in regards to last night and some things that people have been talking to me about. A little bit of rumors. We'll talk about that. But first, the transgender debate. Let's talk about trans youth, right? Trans youth, and because they're wanting, there's bills out there that are looking to implement, into the curriculum, transgender education and into kindergarten, first grade, second and third grade classes. And so there's also been debates in like states like California where there are fighting, even people who support the LGBTQ community are fighting against laws that will make it okay and actually illegal to deny kids of medication for the transitioning. However, many advocates or many people who oppose that bill say that there's a trend, there's a correlation between suicide rates and kids who are taking this particular medication, and so they're saying they want to stop that. They don't know the long-term effects and stuff. So I want to talk about that, and I also want to talk about the education part, because here in Yonkers specifically, but here in the state of New York, bills A6166, or I should say, is it A6616? I'll be showing that in a few minutes. Will be, going up for vote. I should say Nader Sage supports it, and many people are upset about that because that will implement transgender education into the schools. So I want to talk about this healthcare stuff. Despite recent evidence showing that debates regarding the restriction of transgender persons' rights have negatively impacted the LGBTQ plus youth mental health, and that physicians generally oppose legislation that interferes in or criminalizes patient care. State legislators across the United States have introduced and in some cases even passed bills that deny transgender youth access to best practice medical care by criminalizing physicians for providing gender-affirming care. While not all of the proposed bills have passed, these anti-transgender politicians have continued their assaults on the rights of transgender persons. We have to be careful also about the media, right? And regardless of which side of the coin you fall on, you always have to be aware of the media and how they write things and how they try to really pull on the heartstrings. And sometimes they're very biased, right? And I say that because here it says anti-transgender politicians who oppose this. Now, are they anti-transgender because they oppose this medication, or do they oppose it because there's evidence also showing and studies showing that, this could be dangerous? And many times, people are making decisions and not really thinking it through. And there have been, these cases where people have transitioned and even from pressure from organizations. I was watching a video where a gay man, he said, I'm opposed to this organization that he works for that helped kids with their transitioning because he felt like they were pressuring kids. They were even going behind the kids' parents, reaching out to kids and encouraging them to make the transition. And what's been happening is that many times people have been regretting that, and the realization of what life is going to be like now that they've made that transition is something that they really didn't all the way, see or understand or think about, right? Because there's a lot that comes with that. So, I want to talk about it because a lot of people are talking about it, and this is very touchy, right? A lot of people don't want to really speak about it, right? And I feel like we have to have a conversation. We all have to have conversations about it because that's how we come to a place where we can agree, right? And be able to be civil to each other and not be disrespectful, right? So I think this is why it's important to talk about. Very recently, Anthony Moranti, right, put a post about the Pride Festival here in the city of Yonkers, where he, I don't know if he criticized it, but he spoke out against having children there and felt that maybe it wasn't a children-friendly event because of the explicit content, the sexually explicit content or innuendos that the transgender show, I guess, had in it, and it was right next to face painting, I think, in a bouncy house. And so, a lot of people, well, believe it or not, some people actually support him. They just don't say it publicly. But, he did catch a lot of flack for it publicly. But, some people do agree. And I just want to give those people a voice because a lot of times they're not really, feeling confident to maybe speak out there, what how they feel, right? Because it's almost become, like you're a bad person if you believe that that's not okay to have taught to kids. You're not being politically correct or you're not being progressive, right? So I want to talk about that and hear both sides of it because I think that's very important. Now, education, transgender education is in 12th grade, first grade, something I don't agree with personally. And it's not just because it's about transgender. I say straight sex also. I don't care if it's between a man and a woman, right? I don't want my kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, child, being introduced to that. And I believe that, that's still my parental right, is it not? I'm just saying, right? So where do we, draw the line and say, okay, well, maybe we're now infringing on certain groups' rights in order to, give other people, rights, right? So how do you say, okay, how do we not affect other people though? We everyone's rights should be protected, right? Everyone's rights should be not be violated and should be considered. What about the rights of parents who would say, it's not about transgender. It's just about that that's not something I want my child being introduced at that age, right? There will be a time and place. And sure, that's the world, right? And I will always teach my kids to be, respectful of others and tolerant of others, right? And that's what the general message should be, I think. I think the general message should be that. Be loving, be tolerant of others, regardless of their differences, right? The Biden administration on Thursday proposed expanding Title IV protections against sex discrimination to include transgender students as part of a broader effort to replace Trump-era rules. Everything is Trump. Like, I remember when they used to always talk about Obama when Trump was president, and and all the Obama fans were like, "Oh, he's not president no more. He's not president no more." And geez, they cannot let Trump go. And I got a guy that always constantly reminds me about Trump. I don't know why. Anyway, Trump-era rules, it said, had weakened safeguards for sexual harassment victims. The proposed changes announced by the U.S. Education Department on the 50th anniversary of the law's passage are aimed at K through 12 and higher education institutions that receive federal fundings. They would address how the schools respond to complaints of sexual discrimination, harassment, or assaults, and would mark the first time that transgender students would be explicitly protected under the law. But aren't they already? Are all people protected under the law? See, that's the problem. Why do we have to, protect groups specifically because of certain, it shouldn't have to be that way, right? Are we all protected under the law just because we're human beings and that's the law, right? You shouldn't kill anyone. You shouldn't mistreat anyone. You shouldn't discriminate against anyone, regardless of what, they might like or what they're wearing or whatever. That's none of your business. Just treat them with respect as long as they treat you with respect. Be kind as long as they're kind to you, right? Why can't we just teach it that way? I don't understand. Well, what specifically do they have to know about transgenders or even when you talk about race, right? And I get it. We learned the history, and we could talk about history because they do. Maybe not. None of that history really is all the way right, regardless of what they're talking about, if you ask me. But I'm just saying, aren't they all already protected? Every student should be able to learn, absolutely, grow and thrive in school and not be derailed in their education by sex discrimination. Maybe this didn't happen in school when I was growing up, and it's happening now. I don't know, but I don't recall, and maybe I don't know, but I don't recall ever that being an issue. And there were gay students. We had gay students. There were friends also within our groups. No, I don't know. I don't remember anyone ever really saying, "Yo, look at that," and talking negatively about someone because they were gay. Maybe transgender, But I remember we had kids, and I did go to high school outside of Yonkers. This is when they were first painting their nails. The boys, there were kids that would paint their nails, right? It was mostly black, but nobody ever like really discriminated against them, or not to the point where I don't know where it wasn't a big issue. It's your kid. I agree. By deciding what you want them to be exposed to, I agree. It's all about protecting pedophiles. That's it. They want to teach kids it's okay to play with themselves so they don't think it's wrong if an adult touches them. Other states have normalized pedophilia. That's, I mean, you know what? I will say that someone can make a strong argument for that. I don't know if that's a direct correlation with transgender, but I will say that, and I will be speaking about this on Saturday, specifically about family court, where it seems like there is some kind of protection for pedophiles. I'm not sure what that is, but there's a gentleman that seems to have a pattern and within the family courts, and so I will be discussing that. That's also things that I've seen. I was sent a video of a man. He's transgender, and he was reading to kids at a library. Now, he started to read, and then when he was maybe a few sentences in or whatever, two dads got up and they're videotaping this whole thing, and they start yelling, "We don't get the transgender out of here! Get the transgender out of here!" And so other people are just kind of looking like, what's going on? And they just keep saying it just interrupted the whole thing, right? And so people are like, "Oh, what's wrong with you guys? That's rude, whatever." And they're like, "Why are you letting a pedophile, read to your kids?" And I thought, because I don't like to general. I don't like to just assume, right? And I don't. That's because anybody, you could be a pedophile. You could be a straight guy. Look, I could be a pedophile. I'm not. I'm just saying. Does it make, just because I look like this doesn't mean that I can't be, and I only say that as an example, but no, so they're like, he's a pedophile. And I'm like, but why that's not okay. I didn't think that was okay. But then they show a video of the same guy, the same individual online, doing like a video, and he's doing a video with other, transgender, people, and they're saying, "We're coming for your kids. We're coming for your," weird stuff like that, and it was and it has to do with pedophile stuff. It was weird. It was strange. And then I said, okay, well, if I saw that, I wouldn't want that, person. And it didn't matter if they were transgender, if they were, regular, normal looking person. I don't know, whatever is normal. I'm just saying, dressed like, it still wouldn't be okay, right? So maybe they need to, just do better vetting with everyone. Doesn't matter who it is, like if they're gonna, if you're gonna hire people, it don't matter if they're transgender or not. Vetting process should always be very thorough background checks. That's just what I believe. So I don't want to, because that's where it gets touchy, right? And they say, "Oh, Freddie Vasquez says that people who are transgender are pedophiles." No, that's not what I said, and I'm not saying that at all. Not at all. Pedophiles come in all colors, shapes, and sizes, just like everything else, right? Right. So, but yeah. So I want to let me see what else I got here. Transgender women in sports, and that's another thing, right? The sports. Now, come on, but this should be kind of common sense. I'm just saying, this should be common sense, right? Efforts to exclude transgender people from sports. Let me show this article. From sports are harmful to all women and girls. That's what this person is saying, right? Efforts to exclude transgender people from sports are harmful to all women and girls. Athletes are more than bodies, hormones, and sex assigned at birth. Proximity to coaches, facilities, and parents with money and time are most predictive of success. The International Olympic Committee, after consulting with leaders in medicine, athletics, and human rights, stated in new guidelines last year that there should be no assumed advantage due to sex variation, physical appearance, or transgender status. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with that. I mean, that's not necessarily true. That's not true. We must include and embrace trans people. And I'm not saying exclude. No, I'm not saying exclude. However, it's not fair. It's not. I mean, at the end of the day, physically, it is still a man. So to compete with the woman, let's say in basketball, the woman's 5 feet. The man, that's now a woman is 7, 8 feet tall, right? So I'm just saying there is that difference. There's that, and then what about women's rights? Remember them? Remember the feminist movement? Remember all the women that we fought to be equal and have the same rights and be able to do what now? What about them? They're just being pushed aside. What about all the hard work that, and everything that they fought for? And then the athletes that worked hard, the female athletes who are biologically female on a high school team, right? And then, senior year, in comes in a new student who happens to be transgender, was a male now, so is identifying as female, 7, 8 feet tall. They only have one scholarship to give, and now the biological female, who's 5'4", is not going to get that scholarship, right? Because obviously the other one's dunking on all of them. So I mean, there's an obvious difference, and that's happened actually in some cases where parents felt like, wait a minute, my daughter worked all this time, and here comes this person who was really a man biologically. It's a difference. There's just a difference. To the editor, somebody writes to the editor, I am a 1968 and 1972 Olympian. The appalling and callous disregard for the rights of biological females perpetrated by such entities as the ACLU, the NCAA, Ivy League universities, and others will destroy the gains we have fought for in women's sports. Even our politicians are attempting to pass a so-called Equality Act that would require that trans male to female athletes be allowed to compete against biological females. Many aspiring Olympians would be denied a place on a team by a trans woman like Leah Thomas, I guess the athlete. I am not, as they call it, a TERF, trans exclusionary radical feminist, nor, I didn't even know that. So there's TERF. That's a term, trans exclusionary radical. So look at that. So now they're creating terms that are negative towards women. I mean, what about the women? Nor are most who are demanding fairness for biological women in sports and other spaces women need to have for themselves. That's true. See, that's the thing that's going on now. Now, if you speak, this is why my wife said, Freddie, be careful. But I said, honey, I'm not going to say anything negative about people. I'm just going to have a conversation with the folks, right? This is what I'm saying. If you speak, how you feel, then you're wrong. Then now you got TERF. You're labeled TERF. They got a name for you or whatever, anagram, whatever you call it, right? And you're kind of demonized. You're kind of made it to look like a villain for thinking that it's not fair. And so people are scared. This is what I'm saying, that there are a lot of people that feel, that this is not okay. They don't want transgender education in the schools, but they are not willing to speak publicly about that. So basically your voice is not being heard. And they doing that by, making you feel like if you say such things, that you are homophobic, or you are a bigot, or you are, all these negative terms that no one wants to be labeled, especially if they're not. And that's not okay. And, I have been seeing a lot of gay men and gay women speaking out about that, actually. They're saying it's not, they're actually agreeing. They're actually agreeing. They're saying it's a little bit too much. Like it's, and it's kind of affecting them. Because now people, are feeling negative or feeling some kind of way. They may not say it, but then now they have, that animosity towards all in the LGBTQ community. you know? So I mean, it's not okay. I mean, come on, for the women, it's wrong. That's like putting an athlete in the Special Olympics. There's so many transgenders. They should just make a transgender Olympics. Yeah, what do you think about that? A transgender Olympics? But see, then here's the argument. They say, well, we're not, disabled. But does it mean that that you guys are disabled? No, it doesn't mean that. Right? So you're saying that it's negative thing, then you're saying something negative about those who are in the Special Olympics, right? And speaking of disability or feeling like it's a disability, I don't know if you knew, but homophobia, transgender, that was actually in the DSM. It was classified in the DSM, and I want to talk about that because that led to riots. Yeah, a little history. I know some history, folks. I know some history. The Stonewall riots, as they were called. But I want to talk about the DSM. I don't know what DSM for. It's the book that classifies all mental health disorders and stuff. And so being gay and being homophobic, not homophobic, I say being gay man or gay woman, or transgender, whatever, they considered it a mental health. So the Stonewall riots were a series of spontaneous protests by members of the gay community in response to a police raid that began in the early morning hours of June 28th. Oh, we're coming upon the anniversary, 1969, at the Stonewall Inn in Greenwich Village neighborhood of Lower Manhattan. Patrons of the Stonewall, other village lesbian and gay bars, and neighborhood street people fought back when the police became violent. Of course, the riots are widely considered the watershed event that transformed the gay liberation movement and the 20th century fight for LGBTQ rights in the United States. And see, I would like to hear about that because it's another thing that's very interesting and that's very informative, right? I've never knew about it. So, and this is sometimes what I say, and like again, I say this with all due respect. Do you have the pride parades and you have people out there with their booties out, their breasts out? Some guy, a transgender, he did the transformation, had breast out, he was showing them, and he was grinding up on a cop, and I just didn't understand what did that have to do with celebrating your rights and being able to have equality and stuff like that, right? That's like black people during the civil rights movement having a parade for to celebrate that and then being half naked, right? Isn't that the same thing? And why people wearing the leather mask and all that and being walked on chains. I don't understand that. But if they do something where they speak about this, right, this would be interesting. I love to learn about this, right? And how it started, the gay liberation movement, right? And that's interesting to me. I love history. So the Stonewall riots, a series of spontaneous protests by members of the gay community down in the village, right? After cops raided the Stonewall Inn, and so they all got together and started fighting against the cops, and that led to sparked the gay liberation rights movement. That's interesting. As was common for American gay bars at the time, the Stonewall Inn was owned by the mafia. See, nobody discriminates against gay people. What do you, even the mafia? Did business with them and all that. Come on, they trying to create problems between us, man. That's all it is. Trying to create all us to fight, all the groups. While police raids on gay bars were routine in the 1960s, and so every other bar, and in shady neighborhoods and holding the walls, they always getting raided, and the guys on the block, they always getting cops running up on them, going in their pockets, especially during Christmas time. You hear that from me. Officers quickly lost control of the situation at the Stonewall Inn on June 28th. Tensions between the New York City police and gay residents of Greenwich Village erupted into more protests the next evening and several nights later. How many people knew about this? Within weeks, village residents organized into activist groups demanding the right to live openly regarding their sexual orientation and without fear of being arrested. Would they be arrested for being gay? I don't know if that's the new activist organization concentrated on confrontational tactics, and within months, 3 newspapers were established to promote rights for gay men and lesbians. See, that's very interesting. That's interesting. Maybe that could be in the history books, right? So if you want to teach about transgender and LGBTQ community and, in the schools, right? Maybe something like this at a point in time, it could be in the history books along with other civil rights movements that have occurred here in the United States. And that's how you learn. And we teach about tolerance and love. And that's it. Respect each other. We all have had to struggle at some point, right, to gain equality for the most part, right? A lot of us, various groups. So we all have a similar story. I don't understand why we can never unite, right? So that's interesting. I think that should be talked about. That should be, spoken about at the festivals, at the parade. Talk about the rights. Talk about the good stuff. Some of this other stuff. Honestly, to me, no disrespect. I just think it's not unnecessary. I don't understand what it has to do with equality for the LGBTQ community. I don't. I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense at all for any group of individuals. And speaking of equality, I wanted to just something very interesting. The United Negro College Fund elected Milton C. Jones to chair the United Negro College Fund Board of Directors last week and made a formal announcement to whatever. This was kind of old. He is the first Black American to chair that. I just thought that was interesting. Really? The United Negro College Fund, he's the first chair of the Board of Directors. I just thought that was very interesting. I would thought that would have been happened already. It was founded by Frederick Patterson, this guy here. Did he not have a board of directors with a Black guy? Did he not? I don't understand it. I just thought that was interesting. Maybe somebody can tell me why. Now, I wanted to show this video here because this is, again, I don't get, folks, when we talk about the Pride Parade, the Pride Festival, and we talk about children. This is what I don't understand here. I'm going to play this. And I don't know if it's offensive. Listen, this is from the internet. I didn't download it. It was public. This is a little boy, and this is what they have him do. Now, is that okay? I don't know if that's okay. That's not okay to me. I mean, he's too little for that. I mean, even if he was, if he was gay, if he felt that he was a gay boy, that's still not okay. I just still don't think that that's okay. And I think that a lot of what's happening, and not just, with LGBTQ or just on social media, on the internet, is a lot of, over sexualizing of our children. Like our children are like targets. I feel like they're being targeted for everything. Ever since the pandemic, I feel like, wait a minute, it's like our children are under attack. With the vax, get them vaxxed as early as possible. Give them rights that are strange, like, in some states, children who were 12 or older could, get the vaccine without their parents' permission. If their parents can deny them of it, and they can actually get arrested for having done so. So at 12 years old, they were allowed to make that decision on their own. Experimental drug, you don't know what the lasting long-term effects will be. They can't vote at 12. So I mean, and then now in California, where they're trying to pass these bills where they allow young kids to be giving, these hormone medications or whatever that, many are saying are resulting in suicide rate increasing among youth in the transgender community, those who have transitioned or transitioning. And they say they need to look at it more. These are individuals who are members of the LGBTQ community. So it's not people that are outside the community who are saying this, it's people within the community. But I don't disrespect anyone. Everyone has the right to do whatever they want, live however they want. That's their right. God bless them. I just, where I draw the line and I have to say something, and I try to do it in the most respectful way, it's my children, the children. It's just too young. It's too young. Teenage pregnancies increasing. Why? Over the past decades. Why? Because we have more sexual content on televisions. Now the internet, more sexual content. That influences kids. TikTok influences kids. You got this little kid twerking. That's not okay. For nobody. For no group of people. No sexual preference, no whatever. That's just not okay. These are children. These are children. And I don't understand why we even having that debate. I don't even understand why we're having that debate. It just makes no sense. Before I wrap up, I hit the almost 30-minute mark. Nader Sage, I do want to make note. Bill Well, they have Assembly Bill A840, 840 requires the Board of Education and the trustees or sole trustee of every school district to establish policies and procedure regarding the treatment of transgender and or gender non-conforming students. I don't even know what that means. And then there's Bill A6616 relates to comprehensive sexuality education in schools. These are bills being supported by Native Sage, who gave me the ice grill yesterday. Or is that just how he looks always? Is that always how he looks? Well, Native Sage flopped on the exemption, the religious exemption on vaccines, because he did not want to lose his committee, according to sources. They threatened to take away the committees he has here: Committee on Banks, Committee on Cities, Committee on Energy, Committee on Health, Committee on Real Property Taxation, Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Asian Legislative Caucus. That kind of rhymes. Kind of cool. Native Sage earned a BA from CUNY, Lehman, and a master's from Farley Dickinson University and Fordham University, and a JD from Pace. Interesting. Well, he's supporting those bills. He's up for re-election this year. He's going up against Mike Breen, Republican Breen. And if he's anything like his Republican counterpart, Moranti, I'm sure he would not support a bill like this at the assembly. So you have to make a decision. Again, it's all what you want. This coming election between Mike Breen and Native Sage. Obviously, you see where he wants to take, this. He wants to implement it, put it into the schools, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. I just think that's too early. It has nothing to do, and it shouldn't be about the LGBT community. It should just be about the fact that they're young. These are our kids, and as parents, we have rights. What about our parental rights? I wouldn't want someone going in there and teaching my kids how to, gut another human being, or, beat somebody up, make somebody bleed, you know what I mean? Just violent stuff, because I don't want them seeing that either. So it's not about the LGBTQ community, and that's a straw man argument. That's just like with the border stuff. They make it about race, and specifically about the Latinos. That's a straw man argument. They want you to focus on that when there's real reasons, real issues that support that opinion, that view that should be considered, right? And it's not about race, because a lot of different races or whatever are coming through there. So that's just what I'm saying. So again, there you have it. That's Native Sage supporting that. If you're against it like me, I'm just against it because it's young kids. I don't think they should be taught any kind of sex stuff in, straight sex, crooked sex, up and down sex, left and right. It doesn't matter. They shouldn't be taught it. That's too young. It's too young, So anyway, I do want to move on real quick before I get off. Talk about some things. I was at the Corazon Pineda, and I spoke about that this morning on the Basement Politic Rush Hour Report. By the way, Hillary Clinton, former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, says Democrats should be focused on winning elections and suggested they should not treat the transgender debate as a priority. Clinton made the comments in an extensive interview with the Financial Times published Friday, right? So just wanted to put that out there. Democrats seem to be going out of their way to lose elections by elevating activist causes. It's all about ideologies nowadays. Notably the transgender debate, which are relevant only to a small minority. What sense does it make to depict J.K. Rowling as a fascist? We are standing on the precipice of losing our democracy, and everything that everybody else cares about then goes out the window. Clinton responded, "Look, the most important thing is to win the next election. The alternative is so frightening that whatever does not help you win should not be a priority." So she's like saying, screw them, screw all that. We got to, but I think she does have a point. Democrats, we shouldn't be taking on, these activist causes. We should be focusing on the majority of people and not discriminating against the minority. What I'm saying is that we are, the voice of the minority. That's how it is. You're never going to make everyone happy. And you cannot make a majority of people upset, for a small minority. But again, at the end of the day, everyone should be treated equally, regardless of what your sexual preference is or, your choice in partner is. Everyone should be treated equally, no matter what. We should tolerate everyone's opinions, belief, whatever, as long as they don't infringe on your right? So my parental rights are being infringed on, I believe. So we have to also respect that as well. Well, there you have it from Hillary Clinton. I'm moving on. So last night I was at the Corazon Panera. I did mention that on the morning rush hour. So, I was speaking with many individuals today, and they all asked me, some people who were not there, who's it? Who's it? It's weird. But, so I understand why some people were not. But, who was not there, is what was important, I guess. And, Tasha Diaz, the majority leader, did not attend. Some found that interesting. The city council president was not there. Found that also interesting. Who else was not there? Moranti was not there, but it would make sense. Breen makes sense, really. I don't know, does it? Yeah, it's kind of a Democrat thing. Tom Meyer was there and stuff like, I didn't really see any Republicans. So, but Lakeisha Collins Bellamy, the president, the city council president, and the majority leader, Tasha Diaz, not being there, to many signifies a rift in the council. And I've been talking about this, right? It's obvious. It's been obvious in some meetings. The majority leader has made it obvious also. She said people are jealous of her. Shanae Williams also was not there as well, as a matter of fact. And one individual pointed out that is the Zahi team. The Zahi team was not there. However, Nader Sage did show up. He was there for a little bit, and there was someone I was talking to who wanted to talk to him, and they were calling him, and he would not even come that way. So I realized that. So I started to walk away, and then I said, go ahead, talk. And then he comes back. The guy comes to me, goes, why'd you leave? I said, because you weren't going to be able to talk to Nader Sage if I was standing next to you. It was true. And then he went, because after I left, he went to him. So, whatever. Go Breen. And I say that because, again, I don't vote necessarily on party. I don't just do that. It doesn't make sense to me. But what makes sense is what, I want to see my world look like, my society look like, my community look like. And, I definitely don't agree with a lot of things Mr. Sage represents. So I'm supporting Breen. But anyway, so yeah, there's a rift in the council. And they're saying the rift is between the black women. And people are talking about that. And that's what I'm saying. They're saying there's a rift, but Tasha Diaz has made that very obvious again. And why was the city council president not there? I can understand why Tasha Diaz is not there. I've said it before. She's made negative comments about Corazon. Many think she's jealous of her. That's what I'm hearing. Now, was the mayor and George Latimer truly supporting Corazon? Does she have their full support? What do you guys think? I'm just asking. And by the way, Tasha Diaz had an 8 quit on her recently. She has 3. Her chief of staff is $93,000 a year. I guess he's chief of staff. Is that $93,000 a year? Then she has 2 A's. Well, now 1. And the reason is because they can't work for her. That's a common thing. They just can't take her anymore. And again, like I said, they were going to strip the majority leader title. However, they decided not to because they felt that was going to cause problems. She was probably going to go wilding. She was going to get it popping. And they just didn't want that. They just wanted to be nice and smooth. But many agree within the council and within City Hall that she doesn't make the council look good, nor the city. And I won't say no names, but an individual walked up to Councilman Rubo and said to him, why did you guys elect Tasha Diaz majority leader? I didn't say nothing. I never mentioned her at all last night. John didn't know what to say. He tried. Because he knows. It's true. Person says she's ghetto. She doesn't represent us right. Council. So it's not me. And I just make that point because this is what people are talking about. And, I just speak on it on my podcast. So I don't know why people get mad at me. I don't know why. And so that's I thought that was funny. So that's why she's still the majority leader. It's not because I don't have my information correct anyway. I'm up out of here, And shout out to the city council president of White Plains. Thanks, man. You made me feel good. You did. Thank you. I appreciate it. My reach, it's getting out of Yonkers. That's awesome. Contrary to what some may think, that I don't get any views at all. We're just going to keep rocking and rolling. A lot of good things are going to be happening this coming year, I believe. It's going to get very interesting. Stay tuned, folks. You are going to see a lot of surprises. I'm not going to say everything. I don't think I want to say everything because I want you guys to be surprised. They make extra money from me. Yes, they do. And that is why Nader said, okay, never mind. Nope. I'm not going to, I'm going to support it. I'm not going to go against it. He didn't want to lose that money. It's a lot of money, extra money that he makes on top of his salary, his base salary, for being an assemblyman. So once the assembly speaker whispered in his ear, I'm going to take away your committees. You better fall in line. Okay, I'm going to fall in line. Got to listen. The reason why is because I believe everybody needs to be protected, even if you are religious. You know what I mean? So that's what happened there, folks. And that's how it happens. And that is how the magic happens in politics, right? So shout out to Tom Suozzi. I listen, vote for Tom Suozzi. I mean, Kathy Hochul, governor's race, Tom Suozzi. That's our best chance, New York. Tom Suozzi. It's over for us, New York. Okay? And not because she's a Democrat. It's because she's her. She's who she is. Okay? Tom Suozzi, please make the right decision. Please, New York, or we're all screwed. So, it was a great night last night. Corazon had a lot of people in attendance. I'd say like 50, maybe 70 people, maybe 100. I don't know. It was packed up at Zupta's. She did quite well. I'm sure she raised good money, and she's going full steam ahead. Does she have full support of the Spanos? That's what people are wondering. Chuck Lesnick is running, that's for sure. Hasn't made his announcement yet, but he said he will be, right? Just after he takes this selfie. One last selfie. Chuck, did you put the selfies up? I want to see my picture. I want to see how it came out, because you just caught me by surprise, dude. I like to fix my hair. You know what I mean? Make sure I don't have things in my teeth. But the guy likes to take selfies a lot. He'll just walk up to you. Take a selfie. Take a selfie. I also hear you don't like to spend money, Chuck. You're going to have to spend money for the election, though, right? Otherwise, you ain't going to win. I'm out of here. I wish I could just say everything. Anyway, folks, I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics. Just tune in. It's going to get very interesting, and I'm going to be right there riding the wave with you guys, okay? Ride along, riding this wave, and breaking it all down to you, because I have access to the 4th floor. And I knew it wasn't the 5th floor. I just said that to see if you guys were paying attention. And guess what? They are watching in City Hall because someone came to correct me. Well, they sent a message. They said, tell Freddie it's the 4th floor, not the 5th floor. I said, I know that. I was just seeing they paying attention. I'm Freddie Vasquez. Thank you for watching, folks. Thanks to my sources. And it's going to get interesting. So stay tuned to Basement Politics. Share the show. I think it's becoming cool, actually, to watch the show. So you may not get reprimanded if you like the podcast, okay? And if you share it, I think that you'll be okay. You won't get fired, all right? I think it's becoming okay. Because, even though they know I talk about them, a lot of them thought it was funny. They kind of liked it, and I got fans. So I appreciate you guys. Got fans everywhere. So share the podcast, share the podcast, share the podcast. Let them know it's Freddie Vasquez with Basement Politics. And I'm up out of here. Thank you, folks. Have a great night. Peace out. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered, the transgender debate. If you missed yesterday's episode, I talked about the Yonkers Committee. It's a two-part thing. Yonkers Democratic Committee and the leaders, the who's of the Yonkers Democratic Committee There's a lot of action going to be happening. Everyone watch it back. Everybody's making a move. What team are you on? The winning team? I hope so. I'm Freddie Vasquez. Have a good night and God bless.
Freddie wins. Fatality. Freddie
Politics in Yonkers, New York.
Fatality.
Again, continue to send me information. I know I don't put everything out, and I probably may have not, put your information out, but there's a reason to. Maybe it's not the right time. So don't get discouraged if you wanted to hear what, you told me. At some point, I may say it, or most likely will. Everything in due time. But please continue to send me information. I try to prioritize things and put it out as, in a certain order or whatever. So you can reach me again at politicswithfred@gmail.com. Check out the website. It should be up and running soon for the live stream on the website. So you can go ahead and watch anonymously and comment anonymously on www.basementpoliticsunfiltered.com. That's www.basementpoliticsunfiltered.com. That should be up soon. The page is there already. I just got to get the live stream thing going. So if you want to go check that out, go right ahead. But again, email me at politicswithfred@gmail.com. And don't forget, this Saturday, I will be joined by special guests. It's going to be a good episode, very important episode. And I want as many people to watch as possible. I'm Freddie Vasquez. Have a good night.